It's the wonderful thing about the practice that it can be like a bridge, or another person was like a lifeline, or one of you was a rocky week. And life is like that. At least my life's like that. Some weeks are really wonderful, and other weeks are really challenging, painful, sorrow filled, um, and that's life. Um, and so having something that helps you bridge, that's really powerful. And I'm going to, sort of what I want to present tonight are four, I'm going to say qualities, four qualities of Mahamudra. Uh, this is all about essence Mahamudra practice and working with that. Um, so I think useful to go back, for the past week, the question I was hoping to open with, and you all were great, was, um, sort of a snapshot or a look into what's the week been like and how has practice and your week connected, and you were all really generous with that. The practice we've been doing, uh, Tamel Geshepa practice, or the taken for granted flowing alive quality, good to just go back for a moment and briefly touch on the transition, on the transmission. In Mahamudra, what's being transmitted or shared from the lineage to you and to me, what I'm trying to hand on is that there is this experience, this quality of being aware. And there was like three ways of getting there. Either a story about just like imagining yourself by a lake, I think was the story I used, or sudden interruption, or a shock. There's lots of ways to do it. But somehow you're really tight hold on the sense of me, my thoughts, my feelings, my history and emotion and memories and my world, right? That gets relaxed and opened. And then you can just hold being aware. And in one way that we've been describing it all week is like the flowing stream. So we do the calm abiding practice, we get to the idea of streaming, flowing awareness, and then sort of like encouraging ourselves to like get into the stream and experience the flow. And one of the things I like about the essence teachings is, there's a lot of profound or deep psychology, but it doesn't go into a lot of intellectualizing about it. It's just like allowing yourself to experience the flow of your own self-awareness or your own being aware. And we keep, I hope, demonstrating to ourselves until we're completely convinced I can be self-aware. That's the weather check-in. Like I know what it feels like to be me. I am self-aware. Right? Um, so it's just like getting into the flow of that, and it's always there, and it's this very everyday, taken for granted, um, nothing sort of like no fireworks and trumpets and hallelujahs in the background. It's the thing that we all ignore. Everybody ignores it. So if you don't ignore it, that would be great. You would be remarkable. But almost all of us, we don't think about, oh, this is the being aware. We get captured by the content of what's flowing down the stream, the twigs, the leaves, the fish, the whole thing you've heard me say so many times. And then that becomes what we're focused on. But this practice is, oh, can I just rest in open awareness, in just that knowing, or self-knowing, knowing that I'm knowing. Or another way to say that is reflexive knowing, knowing that can look back at itself. And a wonderful question in one of today's practices, can awareness know that it's aware? Like, can awareness look at itself? And it's like, yes, that's what we're resting in, that sort of self-knowing. And then that every time you come back, part of why we take it for granted is the always there quality. It's sort of like, and I had one teacher who said, it's sort of like the oxygen in the room. No one thinks, most of us don't think about the oxygen, if you live in someplace really smoggy or, there's a foul smell or something, but, in general, it's like, yeah, I'm just breathing. It's like, that's part of what I live in, until it's not there. And then you're like, really, it's like got all your attention. But the always there, it's everywhere quality allows it to sort of become something that you don't think about. So the same thing for being aware. It's like it's the taken for granted, flowing and alive, lively, always there. It's not a thing, right? We're always experiencing this knowing. So just that, let yourself connect with that, and we're just resting. That's the practice for the week. So, what I want to offer tonight is to try and take this a little bit deeper. But, everything from here on are images and metaphors and descriptions that are intended as helpful doorways that you might walk through and deepen the experience that you're already having. So it's because it's that taken for granted always there. It's like I can't add to it. It's already complete. It's completely already there. So it's like, okay, so these are going to be doorways, and we're all different. So for some people, they like doorway number one. There's going to be four of them. And for some, they like doorway number three. Some people like all of them. Some people go, I don't like any of them. Well, then don't use them. So it's completely up to you. And yet these are very traditional. And before I even get to these four things that I want to point at, which are four qualities or four ways to experience this open awareness, I just want to sort of nod, like I'm delivering the teachings in a way that is set free from religiosity. I received them in a, Vajrayana Buddhist context, in the Indo-Tibetan Buddhist tradition, with all kinds of rituals and ceremony and magic and mystery and literally like things that you had to go through to be ready to receive them, all kinds of preliminary practices. And the intent in this is just for us, could we just go there? Inspired by something that Trungpa Rinpoche said. I was in a group where he said this, like you could just leap, just go right there without all of the ceremony. But the ceremonies have interesting things in them. And so I just want to talk about two. And as I say this, you do not have to be a Buddhist to understand this. We're just being human. And yet there's a wisdom in the teachings of the Buddha that these two ceremonies point to. So generally, these are taught to people who have formally become Buddhist and declared themselves Buddhist in a ceremony called taking refuge, and then who have aroused the great heart and understanding of emptiness and compassion in a ceremony called taking the great awake being vow, or the Bodhisattva vow. So I want to talk very briefly about refuge and Bodhisattva. I mean, I actually intend to talk about this more at length in a presentation, maybe, in September or something. If you want, you'll be welcome. It's just going to be an open to the public thing. But in this context, the key element of taking refuge is that somehow, I'm going to present this in a non-religious way. Somehow, you've understood, life has rubbed up against you enough, and there's enough things that have happened that you've understood that making yourself the center of the universe and making it about your needs or your desires or your hurts doesn't work. That just causes more suffering. So that holding on to me, it's like holding on to a particular set of twigs and rocks that are, or twigs and leaves that are flowing down the stream, that holding on creates suffering. And we can hopefully see, well, maybe I need to let go. And what do I let go into? I let go into the possibility that one person woke up and shared that with others. And there's a series of teachings on how to do it, and there's a community of people I can share the journey with. And so it's letting go of me and opening up to something new. Refuge. I like to translate refuge because it's seeking safety on some level, safety from the suffering of samsara. At the end, when we do our dedication, by this merit, may all attain omniscience. So may everybody know about this wonderful thing we're doing. From the stormy waves, and then here's a description of suffering: birth, old age, sickness, and death. From this ocean of suffering, from this ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. And it's like we're trying to get past the suffering and then find a place where we can be confident. So in terms of Mahamudra, that awake example and awake experience and the teachings, we keep coming back to in the essence, and we're just resting in this experience, this open experience. If you want to say Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, which I do, right? I was like, great. But if you want to say awake and teachings and friends that I do it with, you can say that too, right? We're just not using Sanskrit. And we're trying to do it in regular English, right? So it's a refuge. But the key is you have to get over yourself being the center of the universe. And for most of us, it feels like I'm at the center and everything's around me. Doesn't it feel like everything in the universe is outside of you and you're in the middle? You go from, and it moves with you. So it's sort of like, so that's just how it feels, but that's not a very accurate description. There's something more mysterious going on. Because if you try to rest in open awareness, and you're trying to hold open awareness like a thing, then you will have lost the open, right? So that's why I'm talking about refuge. I know this as a Bonnie Raitt song from a long time ago, but I think it's much older than her. And she doesn't talk about Mahamudra. She talks about it's love. Love is a rose, and you better not pick it. I think it's Bonnie Raitt. It only grows when it's on the vine. It's only there in the flowing, right? A handful of thorns, and you'll know you've missed it. You lose your love when you say the word mine. So this is the opposite of Gollum. My precious, my awakening. And it's like, no, we're opening and opening. That's why this gesture over and over. And then when you open, to go to the second part, and as I was saying a little earlier, it's like you're not trying to have these experiences. In the Bodhisattva teachings, you actually are trying to generate this a bit, but these are markers that you're on the right track. You're more open-minded. Your opinions are less fixed. You allow the possibility that there might be a truth that you disagree with. Something could surprise you or change your mind, right? That things are not solidly the way you think they are. They are open, radically open. And if you understand that openness, then you might begin to feel your connection to every other thing that lives and suffers. And that's called compassion. So it's not all about me. I'm open to the world, and the world itself is wide open, and I'm connected to this shared quality of being alive, and I'm resonating with the joy and the pain of the world. And that's the Bodhisattva teachings. So those provide a very solid ground. If you are a Buddhist and you can do that, formally in a religious sense, great. I do it every day. If you're not a Buddhist and you want to just think about, okay, It's not about me, it's bigger than me. It's about the openness and the heart connection to everything else. And those provide a ground to understand what this experience of resting in openness is, and the four qualities I'm going to talk about now. So very traditional, these four qualities. Last time I presented this, I only presented three, and I went back and thought about it, and I presented them, using Tibetan terms. And tonight, I think I'm going to just stay in English. If I could say this in French or Spanish, I would, for the French and Spanish speakers, first language, who are here. But maybe you can tell me what it would be. That would be interesting. So there are four qualities. And the first one is connected to the openness that we were talking about. There's a radical, when you're holding your awareness open, there is a to the very root of it, from the very beginning, its essence is that moment of awareness is wide open. Anything can happen. And whatever happens in awareness, you can't grab hold of and stay with forever. Even if, I found myself talking about my mother earlier this week, and a lot of sadness with my mother. I had a hard life. She could hold a grudge. There's many nice things I could say about her, but this is not so nice. She could hold a grudge for 30, 40, 50 years. And I watched her hold grudges. But eventually, life took away the grudges. It's like you can't hold a grudge forever. Even the best grudge holders have to let go. So, you can't hold anything forever. It will defeat the holding quality, right? The holding on to, because the openness of it. So your awareness, it's not like you can freeze it. Like, I just want to have this happy thought. I'm open as long as it's happy. It's like, that's not how it is. It's wide open. And the experience that we're having is more like a river than a rock. It's not a solid, permanent thing. It's wide open. It's changing all the time. It's like the weather. You've heard me say this so often, right? It's like, lots of things are happening. It's like it's open. And that's good to know about open awareness, because you might have a really nice experience in meditation. And there's practical reasons to talk about these four. You might think, that was great. And then you sit down. So let's say tomorrow we all sit down and you have a wonderful experience on Wednesday. It's like, yeah. And then you sit down Thursday and I want to do that again. And it doesn't happen. It doesn't mean that it's not working. I'm going to make that happen again. And everybody tries. That's how it, and then no, it's open. It's like whatever's happening, you can't hold on to it. The openness is open, right? The word that I'm working with and the technical description of it often gets translated as empty, but it's not empty like it's not there. It's more like open. And many of you have heard me talk about this, as open, empty, full. Radically open, empty of being able to be held onto, and full of every possibility. So that's one description of the open awareness. It's open, empty, full. I just shorthanded it to open. The next one is I'm going to offer you an image, and then I'll say the word. Think of the sun shining in the sky. Beautiful late June. Hope this is tomorrow here. Late June day, beautiful blue sky, sun is up and shining. The sun doesn't wake up and need a shining coach or a shining strategy. It just effortlessly shines. That's what suns do. And, we divide it into the sun and the sunshine, but actually that radiance, which is the word I wanted to use, the radiance of the sun is the sun's expressing itself, the brightness expressing itself. And so when you're resting in open awareness, there's a quality of the intelligence or the wisdom or the knowing. It's just bright. It's radiant. It's expressive. It's not like contained. And that's what this is really helpful to just think of yourself as like allowing it to, like it's resting there with you. You're just resting with the brightness. And if your mind gets dull and collapses in on itself and you feel sleepy, or it gets fuzzy and dreamy, it's like the rabbit comes back from meditation is freedom, or you get lost in a distraction and you've been trying to do this, but you realize for the past 5 minutes you've been fixing the plumbing or having an argument or whatever, plotting what happens after the midterm elections, or any of what could happen, right? It's like, no, that's, I'm like back to open, just resting in brightness. So the word in Tibetan actually, and the description actually implies radiance. It often gets translated as luminous, but then meditators go looking for a light. And it's more the bright knowing, like the intelligence of awareness. So it's open, it's radiant. Trungpa Rinpoche had an example he used. If this works for you, great. If it doesn't, let it go. He talked about it being like a movie projector, old-fashioned movie projector, with the movie reels and the click, click, click as the film goes through, and there's a bright bulb in the projector. And the bright bulb is shining through the film and what's on the movie. And it says it's as if you took the bulb out of the projector and you're just walking around with the brightness. Right? It's not about the film, the fish and the trees and the twigs and the leaves. It's about the brightness. Like, oh, there's a brightness here. So open, radiant. Third description, third door. If you don't like either of those, if you like those are great. Here's another one. Maybe you'll like this. There's a knowing quality to it. So open, bright, knowing. And I'm going to suggest that there's two ways to approach knowing. One of them is very traditional, and then the other I'm adding. Right? So I'll just acknowledge I'm adding a very modern description. In the second session today, the second meditation session earlier today, there was a question about, can awareness know that it's aware? And the answer from a Mahamudra point of view is a resounding yes. Awareness knows itself. It understands. So this is like just like you're driving a car and you can know that you're driving while you drive. Like we've been working with this for a while. It's like, oh, you can know that you're aware. Without it having to like, geez, let me, if it goes looking for it like a cat hiding in the room, like, and that's too complicated. It's just like you're just allowing it to be open, and there's some kind of self-recognition. Oh, this is awareness. Awareness recognizing awareness. Awareness knowing that it's aware. And so we're resting in openness, and we know that we're aware. And the more familiar we get with what that experience of being aware feels like, then we slip away into holding on to a memory, um, or a worry, or a fear, or some, earlier today there were some noises happening outside my house. It's like, what's that? Like into a sensation, and then, it's like, oh, I've sort of collapsed it, right? And there's nothing wrong with wondering that. That's very human. We're just allowing ourselves to be human. But there's like oh, I can come back to just knowing I'm aware. Like if it's really dangerous, I'll go check on it, but it was just a noise. Right? I think it was a lawnmower. I don't feel too threatened by lawnmowers. So it's like, just, it's like, and then come back to just knowing that I'm aware. So far we have open, radiant, self-knowing, and then I think connected, and this is the one I'm adding, this knowing quality, is your everyday, regular, just human being level of knowing. You effortlessly apprehend the world. You look out, you pick up something like a coffee cup, and you go, I can tell it's a cup. So unless there's some kind of brain damage or dementia or some kind of mental disability, I pick up my pen, I can tell the difference between the pen and the cup, whatever I call them. Those are just names, right? But I sort of like effortlessly, I look at you, I can see you on the screen. And I'm not strategized like today I'm going to open my eyes and they're going to work and the visual consciousness will effectively go out and collect the image and come back and interpret it. And like, no, it's all sort of automatic. This automatic quality of just knowing that happens before we even think about it. So that automatic knowing applied to awareness is awareness can know awareness. So we've got open, radiant, knowing, and then here I think is the coolest one. And we said this, we did this the last time, and I remember an image that I really loved from the discussion. I'm going to use it again. So I'm going to translate this as cradling. Gently allowing awareness to be held in your experience. Like you're just holding awareness. You're not trying to smother it with your attention. You're not trying to squeeze it and hold on to it for dear life. You're not trying to like shape it into something special. You're just cradling. Just allowing yourself to hold the experience without holding on and fixating into I'm so special, I'm having this. It's the taken for granted, flowing alive quality. It's like it's very ordinary. Every human has this, even the worst humans. Like they're aware. So I'm just being aware. So I talked about it last time as, if you've ever been handed, either as a mother or as some person who's allowed in close, a very young child, like think of a newborn or a child that's like 3 days old or a week old, and you're holding the child. There's a safety and a security and like a natural warmth, unless you have a heart of stone, in which case we should go back to the bodhisattva and refuge thing. But if you have a normal human heart, there's a natural warmth and holding and tenderness, and yet you don't drop baby. It's not inattentive. So the holding isn't grasping, it's a cradling, which is why I like that word. And the image that was shared last time by one of the participants who's here, was, I think, borrowed from their partner, because I listened to last year's talk and this was in it. Imagine holding your hand out and a butterfly lands on your hand. how would you hold the butterfly? If you close your hand, the butterfly's gone, damaged or dead, or flies away as soon as you start to. But if you could just cradle, then that bit of splendor and beauty and aliveness is just there. And so when we're resting in open awareness, we're recognizing that it's wide open, not something you can hold on to. It's got a radiance or a brightness quality. It has a able to know itself quality, and we can cradle it. It can be held. And in that holding, we can recognize what it's like to be awake. So Mahamudra, essence Mahamudra practice is when we use awareness, because awareness is the same thing as being this taken for granted, flowing alive experience, being aware. If we can rest there, that is the same as being awake. Being aware, being awake. And we're just recognizing that. And so our practices in the coming week, we're going to explore those. So that's what I had to offer. And I find it both exciting and tender, and sometimes a little bit daunting. Like, can I do it again? And the answer, the lineage wants it. Yes, you can. Try it again. Keep going. See what happens. So with that, I'm going to remove the pin. I'd love to have a discussion if you have thoughts or questions or something you'd like to talk about. Helen, did I see your hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like those words. I think it was Rick, Saul, and Zin.
Right.
But is there a word for the open?
The short version would be Tong, tongue.
Okay.
And that's since they don't have exact English equivalents, the Tibetan word for it is Tongpa Ni. And I saw this interesting presentation of I'm not exactly sure which Rinpoche it was. It was a young guy, and he was talking about the difference between just blank emptiness and this. And it was the difference in Tibetan between the expression tong and Tongpa Ni. And the blank emptiness is sort of like just nothing's there. And often people, this becomes a long philosophical debate inside of Tibetan Buddhism. It's a little bit of an inside baseball discussion, but it's like, is it tong? And then schools will defend the point of view of there's nothing there, it's not solid. And then this tradition says, well, it's not solid, but it's not nothing. There is the bright, knowing, cradling that's possible. So I like open, empty, full as a translation. So, but that's the Tibetan tongue or Tongpa Ni.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm not, I should, like, full disclaimer, my Tibetan is so radically limited that I couldn't even say hello, where's the bathroom, or I'd like a plate of dumplings in Tibetan. I know what dumplings are called, so I could just say that word. Dumplings. Momos. So just an acknowledgement that my Tibetan is very limited. That's the nice thing about this practice, and one of the inspirations for me to share it is that you don't have to know another language. I love knowing other languages, but you don't have to. We could just, and it doesn't have to be something. I didn't use those words that we used last time. I used Sal, Rick, and Zin, and we went on about what they all meant, and I thought, oh, let's just do it in regular language. So I'm glad you asked it, Helen, because it allowed them to come in the room. And I'm also glad to just come back to like the for me, part of the inspiration of this is like, we're in this culture and we're speaking this language, and could we try to express it in ordinary words? And I often ask myself the grandmother question. I think of it as my grandmother question. I see your hand, Gary. I'll be there in just a second. My grandmother's name was Annie, and sharp as a whip, like really, really a sharp lady, but not a lot of schooling. And I think, could I explain it to my Irish grandmother? Because if I said something too highfalutin, she'd have rolled her eyes. What are you on about? So I have to be able to explain it, at that level. Um, there's another famous thinker, contemporary, named John Feynman, who I think is a particle physicist. And his thing is, if you can't explain it to a fourth grader, you don't understand it. And I really like that approach. You can use all the complicated words you want, but if a fourth grader doesn't get it, keep going. Gary, I saw your hand.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for demystifying it, because I don't know if my impression is right, but I think some of the systems maybe cherish the. I perceive sometimes a bit of a hierarchy, and they cherish the the mystery of it, or something like you have to go through this level and this and this and this and this.
Hmm.
But I'm glad you bring it down to a language or understanding, and simplify it. It still has the profound aspects, but
Hmm.
it just helps me. Yeah, because I spent a lot of years confused, reading and trying to figure out some things,
Yeah.
and I used to go to the Wheatons and that, and you had to go to this before you could go to the next level, and
Right.
that, and it really sometimes it's detrimental because it can give up and just say, "Oh, this is just too much." You know what I'm saying?
Well, yes, I do know what you're saying. I was flashing on the Wizard of Oz while you were talking. So it's like the wizard and Dorothy gets to Oz, and there's this big curtain, and it's like, what's behind the curtain? It's this little bald man, but what you see is this big deal, right? And so there's some of that, but there's also like, there is an intelligence in here's how you build up to the experience.
Mhm.
So no one is here, I think, without doing some extensive calm abiding and other things that made you ready to hear it. Um,
Mhm.
and and there's always going to be a tension. So this is a question that's really close to my heart, of what's the tension between the intelligence of steadily getting somebody ready and able to do this in quick order, and without having to like go to India or Tibet or you know anywhere, Paris. I'd like to go to Paris, but I don't want to go for this. It's like not having to travel a long distance, and like, could you just do this with regular people? So that's, and regular language, like there's that. And then the other side is, people have done this for thousands of years, and there's lots of accumulated wisdom. And can you translate the wisdom in a way that's available, that my grandmother Annie would have understood it,
Mhm. Mhm.
without letting go of the wisdom?
Right.
So if you remember, there are three types of Mahamudra practice. We're doing the essence. There's the Tantra practice. Um, I'm a Tantra practitioner. I've done meditations and visualizations and mantras for 40 years. I love them,
Mhm.
but not everybody has the time, the energy, the ability, right? So it's like, oh, could we share this? And then there's the sort of more intellectual, which also has a point, because if you can understand it and explain it, then when your mind goes off track, oh, that's a wrong turn. I need to come back over here. But if it's all just intellectual and complicated terms and, well, that's also a wrong track. So there's a sweet spot between all three of them. And I think what you're asking points at that, and I'm glad that it works for you. If you want, you're nodding, but you might want to say something back.
No, I don't
Yeah,
really. I find it very refreshing because I went down, there weren't dead end roads, but
yeah,
the seeking, it takes time to,
yeah,
I always look for somebody that says, okay, if you've already traveled this, I look for that because then I don't have to travel this 4 or 5 roads to get to that
yeah,
place. That's what I'm saying. Well, thank you for having had to travel all those roads and gain
yeah,
the knowledge,
yeah,
and now you're passing it along in North American language. And I think that's what I hear from some people is like, yes, bring it to North America, but put it in
right,
terms that people can understand.
right.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad it's working for you,
Yeah.
because that's definitely what I'm trying to do. Um, Anybody else want to jump in? Robert.
So two things. I really love that the image of the butterfly on the hand, and
I
I
borrowed it. I'm acknowledging it's a gift that somebody gave me.
somebody who I think you should identify, but never
And they
mind.
can identify themselves.
All right, or I could identify him or his wife. Never mind. We're just playing games here.
Don't you think it's more fun if it's mysterious?
Well, I think the person just outed himself, but never mind. So there's that cradling, and the word that you added at the end, which was really the one that really always works, is the tender word.
Hmm. Yeah,
And those two combined together, that image, like if you don't, you can't hold, you're not even holding a butterfly. You're not even breathing, for God's sake,
yeah, yeah,
And there is a kind of heart connection, and that tenderness comes with that.
yeah,
So that it just feels so, it is so all encompassing. Like
yeah,
it,
yeah.
I mean, maybe there's a cool way to do it, cool and kind of calculating, but it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, it's not traditionally cool. Sometimes it's traditionally tough. Like there's a samurai way to do it. We could be practicing Bushido. The art of the warrior, like of martial art, right? Um, but generally, this kind is done with tenderness. And I'm actually reminded something you said, and Margaret quotes this all the time. Um, Sometimes the Shambhala teachings don't get their full acknowledgement. And I'm a Shambhala, I'm a Karma Kagyu Shambhala guy. And in one of the core Shambhala texts called the Letter of the Black Ashe, it's describing this. And it says, it's talking about the mind of Mahamudra as a mind that has gone beyond doubt. Like what awareness is. They have a language for it. They don't call it taken for granted, ordinary flowing. They have their own code word, but they call it the mind of doubtlessness. So that open awareness, that mind of doubtlessness, should be put in the cradle of loving kindness, in the cradle of tenderness, and nurtured with the milk of loving kindness. Did I get it right, Margaret? I don't have the full letter of the black eye. It's around here somewhere, but I don't have it memorized. But that's, I
I
think,
think that I
well,
think that's right.
You're close.
I'm close. Good. So that mind of doubtlessness should be put in the cradle of tenderness and nurtured with the milk or suckled with the milk of loving kindness. I can't remember what it says, but it's like that whole idea of like, yeah, like the butter, like what you said. So anybody else? Oh, Bonnie, are you reaching behind you to see if you can get the quote? It's probably there in the text. Mine's over there somewhere, or somewhere in this room there's a copy. Anybody else want to jump in? Well, friends, that could be enough. You know, we've been here for almost an hour, which there's no time limit. But when the time is gone, it's good to let it, move along. Thank you so much for being here and for sharing these teachings with me. Being here to hear them and to practice together. We will practice together again tomorrow, and we'll be working with open, radiant, knowing and cradling over the week. Focus on one day and one the next, and we'll sort of be working that inside of the meditation. So 8 a.m. Atlantic for those of you on the East Coast, and then again at 8 a.m. Pacific for those of you on the West Coast. So I'll look forward to seeing you then. Would somebody like to dedicate whatever goodness we've accomplished, dedicate the merit? Gary.
Okay, I'm going to give it a go.
Okay.
May these teachings and wisdom, spirituality that is being passed around in our group and transmitted through Brian and others be of benefit to our families and friends and other people in the world, and make us more compassionate and better people. Thank you.
Hooray. I like to say hooray rather than amen.
Namaste.
Hooray! Namaste.
Namaste.
Or Shambhala, Kiki so. Whatever.
I have a question. So it's not a preset text that you say at the end?
Well, there is one, but I also like you can freeform it. You can do it like jazz. Like basically you're giving away the goodness for the benefit of the world. So.
Yeah, I didn't have it before. Brian asked me once before, and I didn't have the text thing, but he said, oh, just open your heart and say what it means. So that's all I did.
Yeah, there you go. Excellent.